Hey, you guys, it's Renata. Someone asked a question that I thought was very interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard this question before. The question is, can you be a TI or a targeted individual, excuse me, if you have never seen street theater or gang stalking? And that's pretty much all the person said. They didn't really go into details as to what they may be experiencing. Now, I have done several videos on ways you can identify some ways because, there's so much with this targeting stuff. But I've done videos in the past that can help people to identify whether or not they are, in fact, being targeted. But I thought I would, try to tackle this question again and try to maybe answer it in a different way, not only for this person, but for anyone who's just trying to figure out, is this happening to me? Maybe they have heard of targeted individual or gang stalking or organized stalking or community based harassment or directed energy weapons, mind control. Maybe they've heard those terms, looked at some of the videos, and kind of wondering, is this happening to me? So, the first thing that came to mind when I read that question is that it probably is happening to this person. Just the mere fact that they're questioning it makes me think that something strange is happening. And that's kind of the first thing that most TIs will notice. First of all, most of us who are targeted have more than likely probably been targeted most of our lives, but we didn't always know it. And so that's why I said, absolutely, a person can be targeted even if they don't see the more popular things with the targeting, which may be the organized stalking or the street theater or the directed energy weapons. Maybe they don't realize that they're getting those, but I do believe that all targeted individuals are getting some sort of directed energy weapons. So, the thing about targeting is that it's very subtle in the beginning, but then it escalates. And I believe that it's subtle in the beginning because that is what I would call the observation period, where the people who are targeting you are observing. They're observing every aspect of your life. They're observing who your friends are, who your family members are, where you work, where you go to school, how many children you have, who you're married to. They're observing everything about you, what you like, what you don't like, what makes you tick, what makes you mad, what makes you happy, everything, so that they can, in their minds, effectively target you. So, um, I just want to kind of share some things, and I have some things jotted down here so I wouldn't forget. Um, but one of the things I want to mention is that uh, organized stalking or gang stalking, however you refer to it, it involves being followed, being stalked, being harassed, being sabotaged, and there's so much more to it. Like there's no way I could cover everything. Some things you just can't even verbalize. It just happens when you're a targeted individual. Like we experience so very, very much, and everybody's experience is a little different yet the same. Okay, the premise is the same for the targeting, but you're followed, you're stalked, you're harassed, you're monitored both physically and spiritually. They are monitoring you spiritually. And it took me a while to understand the monitoring spirits. And you can do your research on that. It's a very interesting topic. I do believe it. A lot of TIs may not, but I do believe that most of this is spiritual. So yes, I do believe that this person is definitely targeted. Now, street theater. I found a really good definition of street theater because this person says that they don't experience street theater, but I beg to differ. I'm pretty sure you do, but you probably just don't recognize it. And that's the thing about this whole targeting thing. Most of it is pretty close to reality. And so it's, for some people, it can be hard to determine whether or not it's part of targeting or not. And I really would not overthink that. Like, just get to the point where you just let things happen. Like, that's, most of it's out of your control anyway. And if it's not physically bothering you, then I wouldn't worry about most of it. I always say try to ignore as much as you possibly can. Some of it you won't be able to ignore. Some of it you're going to have to address because they very much cross boundaries. But what you can ignore, ignore. So the fact that, you can't really tell, don't even try too hard. Like, if the Lord wants you to know, you're going to know. Okay. So here's a little blurb, and it talks about what street theater is. Street theater is when a bunch of gang stalkers put on a show to try and get a reaction out of you or scare you. This includes orchestrating confrontations to their target in front of them. Street theater always has an ultimate objective. Events may be orchestrated for the TI to react out of character, or excuse me, well, they did say to react, but to act out of character, and what may seem an irrational or criminal way to outsiders. And that's the thing. They want to get a rise out of you. They want to get you out of character. They want you to do something that you're going to later regret. Okay. And that's the point of the street theater. Let's see. They want the TI to react out of character and what may seem an irrational or criminal way to outsiders who then may be called as witnesses for the purpose to frame or set up the target and have them labeled unstable, evicted, arrested, or incarcerated. And that's a good point. As I was reading this, one of the things that was just said kind of stuck out to me. And it's the part that says, that they want you to appear irrational. They want you to act out in a criminal way so that people around, like people who may not even be involved around, may see you acting unstable or irrational. And this can cause you to be arrested. This can cause you to be put in a mental institution, or this can cause you, which I thought was interesting and I've never seen written before, to be evicted out of your apartment. That's really something that I think TIs need to consider. Like, you don't want to act out at work. You don't want to act out anywhere, really. So it's really important to know the objective of this whole targeting thing. They're trying to bring you down. They're trying to make you lose everything. They're trying to make you go off. And most targets who've been targeted any length of time, you already know these things. But I think it's a good reminder. I have to constantly remind myself of these same things. You don't want to be evicted. You don't want you and your children to be on the streets, or if you don't have children, you don't want to be on the streets. So try to ignore. I know TIs hate that, but try to ignore, okay? Because most of this is setups. This process is done by repeatedly triggering negative emotional states such as fear, anger, frustration, desperation, or jealousy, then documenting the target's reaction and patterns for the next planned attack. It is always used to shift the target's mind into a state of hypervigilance, emotional instability, confusion, and paranoia for ongoing and future manipulation of the target. Okay, and I'll stop right there. I found this on Reddit, and I'll leave the link so you can look at it. You can read the entire article. But I thought that was a pretty good definition of street theater. And street theater, it can be so elaborate. It can just, it's a lot of mind games. It's a lot of mind games with the street theater. Okay, so some other signs, there are some signs that are very, very obvious. You may see a huge increase in police presence. the fire, the ambulance, things like that. Okay, those are very obvious things. You may feel like you're being followed. You may feel like you're being harassed a lot of places that you go. Like people are just generally rude and generally harassing you. Those are some of the, I would say, more obvious things, but then there's some things that are more subtle. Like I remember I used to get the worst migraines, and I've said this many times on my channel, but I used to get the worst migraines, and it went on for years, and they were debilitating, and I would go blind on one side, couldn't hear. I mean, it was just really bad. Now I realized that I believe that was a directed energy attack. And that went on for me for years. So to this person saying that they don't, feel like they're being gang stalked, they don't feel like they're seeing any street theater, you may be getting other things. And like I said, it escalates. So ask yourself, do you have unexplained illnesses? Do you have, like I was having migraines all of a sudden? Do you have body aches and leg cramps? These are some of the things that I used to get. Um, and it could be any other illnesses. It's a real tricky thing because, like I said, it mimics real life, so closely. Do people get headaches? Yes, they do. Do people get muscle aches, body aches, leg cramps? Yes, they do. So it's kind of hard to determine, for me at least, what is targeting and what isn't. But I would say, like sudden onsets of illnesses, it just may be related to targeting. Um, you could be experiencing chance meetings, running into people you haven't seen for years. Does that happen? Yes, it does in real life. But I can remember a time where it was happening just too much. I'm running into people way from the past, like just it felt like everywhere I went. Of course, it was not everywhere I went, but it felt that way because it was happening in a lot of places. It would happen in the airport. It would happen if I go to a whole nother country, I would see someone. I remember moving to another state. I saw someone from high school, and all this stuff was happening around the same time. Actually, that happened twice because it happened in Atlanta and it happened in Kansas. I saw people that I knew from California. It was just weird. Like it didn't feel right. It didn't feel authentic. It felt weird, and even now I've run into people. And again, I have to keep stressing, like these things really can be coincidental. These things really can happen. I'm one of those people that do believe that coincidences still happen, even though I'm a targeted individual. Let me know in the comment section if you believe that coincidences happen, because a lot of TIs do not. Some people say everything is orchestrated in a targeted individual's life. Nothing is coincidental. So let me know your thoughts on that. But I do believe that there are still coincidences. But with these chance meetings, it just does not feel authentic to be running into certain people in certain places, and it's happening so frequently. So maybe that's happening to this person. That could be an indicator that you're targeted. Sabotage happens a lot to TIs. Problems at work or problems finding a job. Maybe you have skills, but you can't find a job, or you find a job, but you can't keep the job. It took me a long time to realize that what was happening to me. I will find the jobs, but then every time there's a company layoff, guess whose name is on the list? So I finally realized that's tied into my targeting. Okay, so unemployment issues that can definitely happen, or if you do have a job, just constant problems on the job, your work is sabotaged, you feel harassed at work, workplace harassment. That is very common for a targeted individual. Your coworkers, if you are truly targeted, your coworkers will 100% be involved in your targeting. Maybe you have constant conflict in your life. You cannot understand why it feels like you're not very well liked when you know you're a nice person. or people are constantly turning on you, or every time you turn around, your name is involved in some sort of conflict, people lying on you, just conflict, and you don't know why. That could be why. Maybe you're targeted. I think I already said people turning on you, friends that you've had for a long time, they suddenly disappear out of your life. You may be the type of person who is a sociable person. So you have people disappearing out of your life, you have new people entering your life. All of a sudden, you're meeting people. Well, these just may not be the right type of people. They may be involved in your targeting. And you will see that later on down the line when things begin to happen, when they constantly, have you in some sort of conflict, or they're just basically planted in your life to betray you. And all kinds of things could go wrong in a situation like that. Um, People may know things about you that they should not know. I had that happen a lot in the beginning. That's the period I call the go live period. Like I said, the targeting escalates, so it's very subtle in the beginning, but then they go live. That's what I call it, and that's when they want you to know. And when they went live on me, um, I was getting people who should not have known certain things about me, just strangers. They would just say things, and it just make you like, how did that person know? So that can happen. I think I told this story before, but I was at Costco, and every Saturday I would go and get yogurt. I would go and get my yogurt for the week because I would have it for breakfast. And this guy was coming out of Costco, and he said, did you get your, excuse me, I said Saturday, no, but it was Sundays. I will get my yogurt. And the guy came out of Costco and he said, did you get your yogurt today? And I'm like, how would he know that? But something in me said, don't even let him know, because I was still starting to figure this targeting stuff out. I hadn't quite identified, that I was a targeted individual, but I definitely knew that some strange stuff was happening because they were letting me know. So that was that go live period. And I just kind of looked at him and I just kept walking. But yeah, they will do things like that. They will say things that they just shouldn't know about you. You may have people looking at you strange, looking at you weird for no reason, or general rudeness and nastiness. Like I get that to this day. I think I recently posted a video how nasty the lady at Walmart was to me. So that could be part of targeting. Or you might just simply feel like you're being followed. You may feel like you're being harassed. Don't ignore those things. If you feel that way and you know you're not a paranoid person, it's probably happening. Anytime you can build a pattern, that will help you to recognize that you truly are being followed and harassed. Doesn't matter what anybody says, because if you tell somebody, chances are they're going to tell you you're crazy. It's all in your mind. You need a mental health evaluation, all that good stuff. Okay. Ignore it. If you know who you are and you know you're not paranoid, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Do not worry about what people say, because some of them are involved in your targeting, and they're supposed to try to gaslight you to make you think you're crazy. Um, let's see. You may have issues with your technology, with your computers. That used to happen a lot. It could be your cell phone, it could be your laptop, it could be anything electronic. Those things will crash. They will get. I used to get bugs all the time. I can't tell you how many laptops I've been through because they would constantly send bugs, and um, it would even bypass the what do you call it, the programs that I had, the security programs that I had on my laptops to try, like Norton and those kind of things. Those wouldn't even work. Whatever they would send to my computer would just crash my whole entire computer. So you will notice those type of things. You may have money issues with your finances, with your money. the bank. You may have money missing out of your bank. I had someone hack into my account and wipe the whole account out twice. It also happened to my husband several times. You may have fender benders. That used to happen a lot. Um, these things are orchestrated. Most of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but most of them are orchestrated. I used to constantly have those fender benders and flat tires, nails in the tires. Let's see what else. Vandalisms. Just had another one the other day where someone almost took my whole handle off my door. These things happen a lot to TIs. You may have people littering all around your yard. If you have children, you may have people bothering your children. You'll notice that your children are always, in some sort of conflict. Neighbors may come over and say, your child did this, your child did that. I would caution you to, if you feel like you're targeted but you're not sure and your children are constantly getting in trouble, try not to be too hard on your children. Like, really sort it out, but you also want to teach your children to take responsibility for their actions. So I'm not saying that, but you have to consider that if you are targeted, your children or your child is more than likely targeted as well. So the experience you're having, they're having too, on a different level. So people will be trying to get them in trouble. The teachers will constantly be complaining on them. And I don't even know why I'm going over there, but to that subject about the children, but I just feel led to say that because I know how it is. You know how people in the neighborhood, adults will harass the children as well. So just know that if you're targeted, your child is more than likely targeted as well. They will have children their age following them and harassing them. Sometimes the children will be older, and like I said, even grown adults, and the teachers will be involved. The people at the church will be involved. All these people will harass children just as much as they will harass adults. Okay, so I think that I went through everything. Setups. Did I say setups? Yeah, kind of. I kind of did, because you'll be accused of things that you didn't do. That's another sign. People will accuse you of things. I remember I was just talking to my sister about this. I was working at, it was called Mervin's. I don't know if anybody remembers Mervin's, but Mervin's is no longer around. But I was working there for the Christmas season. And I worked in the houseware. So, folding towels and putting all the houseware stuff on the shelves and things like this. And one day they asked me to work in the jewelry department because someone wasn't in that day. So I worked in the jewelry department. Then they called me and told me that there was some jewelry missing and that I don't need to come back, basically, because there's some jewelry missing. I'm like, well, I definitely didn't steal any jewelry because I don't steal. And so some days went by, and the guy called back and said, "Oh, you know what? We found it. We found the jewelry." He never apologized for accusing me, but he said, "We did find the jewelry, and you can come back to work now." And I said, "No, no, thank you, no, thank you." But now that I look back, that was more than likely workplace harassment. That was more than likely targeting. And that was not warranted for him to just accuse me like that. And as I shared this with my sister, I think it was my sister that I shared this with, she said, whoever it was I shared this with, they said that a very similar thing happened to them as somewhere that they were working, kind of the same thing, like, oh, something's missing. So you will be accused of things. And then I think with her, it happened the same way. They came back and said, oh, no, we found it. So you will be accused of things, not only like stealing, but just different type of things. They'll just try to make you a suspect, so that's just another sign. But I want you to know that, this targeting is really hard. I'm not gonna lie about that. It's really hard for most of us, on different levels. Everyone is targeted the same but differently. And I think I said that before. There's different degrees of targeting. Some days is just a breeze to get through, because it can become very predictable. Once you're targeted for a while, you begin to know how they target you. And if you're wise, you can prepare yourself mentally for that. But some days, it can be really, really difficult. But I just want you to know that there is nothing, absolutely nothing the devil can do that God will not get us through. And I'm a living witness to that. It has, like I said, been some very hard days, very, very hard days. But the Lord sees me through every single step of the way. And He will do the same for you. I do think for this person who's not sure, um, do your research. But if you are feeling like, oh, I might be targeted, then you probably are. Thank God that it's pretty subtle for you now, and I hope that it stays that way. But you are not alone, and just seek the Lord, and He will definitely get you through it. That is it for me. Please leave your comments in the comment section. If you have any advice or words of wisdom to people who like this person is trying to figure out if they're targeted or not, if you want to leave any kind of signs that they might look for, or give them any kind of encouragement, or share any of your experience, please do so in the comment section. Please thumbs up the video. Leave your comments, as I've already said, and please subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Thank you for listening.